These 7 tips will make launching your paramotor easier. There are 2 main ways of launching a paramotor. There's what's called a forward launch and what's called a reverse launch. This video is catered towards only the forward launch, and we'll make a separate video about our tips for reverse launches. Rolling into the very first tip, the first thing I see that a lot of people make the mistake of is not holding their A's long enough. If you watch this clip of me launching my paramotor, you'll notice I hold the A's, the things that are attached, the cascade, the lines attached to the leading edge of the wing. I hold those all the way to the tippy top of the glider. Now, commonly, people get a little nervous of not having control with their brakes because while you're holding the A's, you're not able to apply and use your brakes, although they're in your hand. People get a little nervous, they get a little antsy, they get ants in their pants, they drop the A's prematurely and get right into the brakes. That does is it puts the wing into a bit of a saggy, hanging back configuration. Now, you can save that with enough speed, but ideally, a forward launch is a slow, smooth, clean process. Hold the A's to the top, it will make launching easier. Tip number 2 is get moving and stay moving. Sometimes people get a good jolt and sprint to get at the wing right off the ground, and then they stop. And then they sprint again because they realize the wing is falling, and then they slow down, and then they sprint again, and it's just this back and forth. It's important that you get your feet moving and keep them moving. You need to move consistently. What you don't want to do is speed up and slow down, speed up and slow down. You want to pick up in speed consistently and continue to add. If you are to slow down, you need to slow down slowly, not just abruptly come to a stop. Because what's happening as you accelerate and run and pick up in speed is the glider does too. Well, if you suddenly stop running or you abruptly come to a stop, all of a sudden the wing is still going as fast as you were going. So you need to be consistent. Get your feet moving, keep your feet moving. On those really, really light wind mornings where there's just absolutely no wind, you have to get those feet moving, especially combining your feet moving with holding the A's to the top. Those 2 things alone is going to make launching on those light wind days so much easier. The third thing that we already somewhat touched on the second thing is to be consistent with your speed. This is a common mistake that I see. People accelerate, they slow down, they accelerate, they slow down. Oftentimes, I find people changing their speed because they're either looking up at the wing or sideways at the wing. It's important that you try to build your skill set at not having to look at the glider and instead feeling the glider. And it's also important to know when to look at the wing and when not to look at the wing. For example, whenever I do a light wind forward launch, I pick a spot in front of me, straight upwind of me or directly upwind of me, and I run while looking straight at that piece of that object, whatever it happened to be, whether it's a house, car, person, ant, tree, whatever. I run towards it. As soon as that glider starts to come up and I'm about to the point in which I'm going to release the A's, that is when I check both wingtips. I look left, I look right. Now, in this looking left, looking right, as soon as I look to either the left or the right, I'm going to identify the low side. Meaning if I look left and the low side is slanting, or the wing is slanting left, then I know the left is the low side. I'm going to stay looking at the left until the glider is corrected perfectly above me and I'm lifting off of the ground. If I notice that it's slanting to the right and the right side is the low side, I'm instead going to switch and look to the right until I'm able to recover that wing. So I like to look at the low side. Now, if I look and it's perfectly above me, I immediately go back to looking straight. I focus on my posture, I focus on my pressure, I focus on the power, and I lift off the ground. The fourth tip is a really obvious one, and that is setting up into the wind. The way you lay your glider out is either setting you up for success or setting you up for failure. And it's more than just setting up directly into the wind. It's also laying the lines out nicely. It's also laying the glider out flat. It's also putting it in a nice V shape. It's not at all putting yourself in a compromised state. How you set yourself up, how you lay your glider out is either setting you up for success or setting you up for failure. So having a clean, consistent procedure, which you follow every single time, that's the exact same, is very important for setting yourself up for success. If you set up crosswind and the wing comes up sideways and you're not able to correct it, you kind of set yourself up for that. If you set up downwind and you can't even get the glider in the air, you kind of set yourself up for that. So how you set your wing up is either setting you up for success or it's setting you up for failure. The fifth tip is a touch of power to help you get speed. So as soon as that wing has passed the prop wash point, you're almost to the point point where you're going to release the A's. This is also a place you can apply about 1/3 power to help push you down the field. So this also ties into number 2, getting moving and staying moving. The power is going to help get your feet moving and get you moving faster. This is something you really don't want to do when you're brand new. But as you progress and you reach, honestly, somewhere around 15 flights and you're starting to get more proficient, you're not losing control of the glider, then you can apply this little bit of power. It's similar to what's called a power forward, but it doesn't involve power on the actual inflation of the wing. It is just there to help push you, get you moving. Number 6 is never lifting off the ground without the wing perfectly under control. So a common mistake is that you lift off the ground with the glider slightly off center or completely off center. If the glider is dipped down to the right side and you get airborne, which is a little harder foot launching, more so a thing with trikes, you are going to kind of swing under it down to the right and you may end up swinging down into the ground. So it's super important that you keep that glider perfectly above you or darn near perfectly above you before you lift off. So if you find yourself running down the field and the glider is dipping and you're losing control, do not continue to accelerate, apply power, and lift off the ground. Ease off that throttle to the 1/3 power point, regain control of the glider, confirm control of the glider, then back into power and lift off. Number 7 is don't stop running and don't sit in your seat. This one is something that we are all going to do. As you're running down the field, you think you're being lifted off the ground. You're just tired of running. You lift your feet, you go right back down into the ground. It's a super common mistake that we try really hard to preach out of our students. Like, just commit to running all the way down the freaking field, man. Run to the neighbor's field, run into the neighbor's backyard, whatever you have to do. Don't sit down, don't stop running. It's one of the main reasons people blow launches. As long as you can get the wing up and under control, you can ease into that power, your chances of succeeding at the launch is really high. Keep the feet down, keep the landing gear down until you've confirmed you're in the air. With all of that being said, thank you guys for watching. That is my 7 tips to making launching easier. I'm going to make a video about this for reverse launches as well as about landings. If you're interested in learning how to fly, improving your skills, or purchasing your next fancy schmancy wing or motor, we would love to help you at Backcountry PPG. We offer beginner training, progression training, and equipment sales for every make, model, and brand. Contact us at 801-599-1684 or visit our website at backcountryppg.com. My name is Trevor Steele. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.